All right, let's take a look at how you can build your own Bloomberg terminal. Something that'll look like this. It'll have 80% of the functionality that a Bloomberg terminal has, including giving you all the filings, and then you can also go in and look at the financials on an annual, quarterly basis. You can look at the cap tables, and then you can also look at the ownership, which I think is super neat. And of course, you also have your 3-statement financials. And again, here I've divided it into 2 viewable tabs for annual and quarterly. So all this stuff that you're seeing on the screen here, you can actually export it. To motivate why you might want to do this, let's take a look at how much a Bloomberg terminal costs. It's $32,000 per year. That's just ridiculous. And it's actually one of the most expensive software subscriptions on earth. So why would you want to build it? Well, first of all, because you can. All financial data is public. Why pay $30,000 a year when you can build this out yourself? Now, all this data is essentially public, right? So, I mean, you can't really have a public market if the data behind it isn't actually public, right? And so the reason why people don't use it is because it's very, very cumbersome to try to have to go sift through all this data. And what we'll first look at is actually the financial data set, right? So this is actually the most comprehensive corporate financial database in the world, right? It's just these, 70 something files, right? Going all the way back to 2009. But virtually nobody uses it, or at least not in its raw form. And it's because, so if you take a look at this, if you just download one of these files and open up one of the metadata files, you'll see that this is just the metadata that describes what goes into each of the column headers, right? And so you need to do a lot of data processing before this data actually becomes usable. But this is the source of truth and the data backbone of Bloomberg. And so this is where platforms like Bloomberg and a lot of smaller players are able to step in and really charge you money for data that is essentially free. But the great thing is that now the cost of processing this data is basically zero, because you can just use AI tools to host and manipulate the data to extract the insights that you want, right? So what I have here is I'm running this on Zo Computer, which is a really powerful tool that has hosting and all your AI workflows, automations, and stuff in one place. So I just asked my Zo agent to basically download this data set, and it runs a cron job every couple months to update it. I also have an automation here. So this automation is actually a daily automation that I run so that let's take a look here, that the EPS figures here are up to date. So this just runs at market close every day. And then let's take a look here at the actual database. And it's about 5 gigabytes, which doesn't sound like a lot. But if you consider the fact that this is actually all plain text data, right? That's quite a lot of information here. So there's 2 other sources that I kind of want to talk about, which went into the MonkeyPub database here. One of them is Filings, right? So here I have, again, it's made available by the SEC, and then you can of course use this company search, but you have a programmatic way of pulling all this information in, which is by using the RSS feed. The RSS feeds also give you the press releases. So that's basically all the information that you'll need on the back end, and then you can take that. Right, and I think one of the more useful features I have here is a place where you can see all the filings as they come. I also have a lot of press releases, which can be helpful, especially for M&A. Instead of having to, Google stuff, you can actually just subscribe to the tickers that you're covering and do that. So I'm not signed in here, which is why I can't do that, but I can show you that in a second as well. In terms of the filings, the way that a lot of analysts at banks and stuff do it is they'll go on to the investor relations websites that all public companies have, and you can just go in there and look at their earnings, right? So let's just spot check that our app is pulling this information correctly. Let's take a look here. Tesla Let's go look at key stats. Okay, annual. Let's see, annual net income 3794. Let's take a look at the 10K here. Let's go to financial statements here. It should be right here. Yep, there we go. 3794. Okay, so that reconciles. So, honestly, I was very impressed by what my Zoe agent was able to do, how good they're getting at just sort of taking a direction, running with it, and getting the exact thing that you're looking for. So yeah, very, very nice. I thought this was one of the better things, the insider ownership. There's a lot of sites that will charge you money to see this information. But again, this is all available, and you can see sort of the change here as well, which is really, really helpful. You can also go here and take a look at all the events that are happening on a certain date. And let's say that I only want to look at the quarterly earnings. Let's see what happened on the 23rd. I think Tesla, Tesla was on the 23rd when they filed earnings. And you can go here, and then it takes you to the source of the filings, right? So this is the actual filing itself. This is available, throughout. Like if you go to market activity and you click on any of these, it'll take you to the actual press release or the filing itself. So yeah, I was really, really impressed by this, that my Zoe agent was able to do all of this. And the front end looks pretty good too. And the reason why I'm impressed by this is because I've actually tried this out a couple of times. I think I did this last year. So this is on Replit, and like this is just the most boilerplate AI site that you've ever seen, right? So I also tried Lovable and Base44, also was not great. I tried doing this on Google AI Studio, and it couldn't actually fetch the filings. But I was very, very impressed that my Zoe computer agent was able to do it. Now, I guess you could sort of do this on maybe Codex or Claude 2, but the thing is that because it hosts all this information, you're able to sort of get feedback live. And because so much of this app is, like the real core of it is the back end, right? Not like a static front end site, having that live data come through and be able to play around with that and make adjustments was really, really helpful. So this is actually the first prompt that I sent to build this, and it built out pretty much 80% of what you saw on this app here using that, just this one prompt, right? And another reason why I really like Zoe is because the agents are just, it's very, very long running agents. Like it's very little like directions for me. And if you take a look, like I would say that it does a much better job of doing sort of this very long running task compared to like if you're running Claude Code or Codex. Yeah, look how long that is. That's just like, and like, okay, let's just take a look at this. Just appreciate this. 35 steps just working through like this checkpoint. I don't think that Claude Code or Codex is ever as patient when doing something like this. So yeah, hats off, really. It's just, it was really, really good. And, even by this, like by the end of this, right, which was like, it's super long already. Like this is tons of context, super long, and it was still running really strong by the end. It definitely didn't hit the dumb window, and I think the auto compaction was actually quite good on this. So I just want to go here and show you guys the PRD, which I'm happy to share if anybody is interested. But I think anybody could sort of create this using ChatGPT, but just giving it a really, really comprehensive spec and using a spec-driven approach to doing this. I just gave it the spec and I gave it, checkpoints, and yeah, it built this entire thing. So I would say that this experience building MonkeyPub with Zoe has definitely made me question my value proposition as a coder. Yeah, it was very, very impressive. And I will say that, Zoe has a remarkably good handle on front-end design as well. Like if we're just looking at the company profiles, right? Like there's like so many details on this app that like came out really well. Like, pressing Command K to, look up a ticker, for example, right? If you look at the if you look at the company profile itself, like I think the dashboard, like it's very nicely like laid out, and it's not. I just don't really like the Bloomberg interface. It's very like old and outdated, right? And I was skeptical that it would be able to create a good Excel and PPT export function, but like these work and they actually come out looking pretty good. So again, very, very impressed with that. There's also, of course, I built in here a screener where you can look and filter by, filter by industries. This is probably a little bit too high. Let's run that. And yeah, institutional shares, blah, blah, blah. Pretty cool. And then you also have sector comps, as well as a press room and a IR library. Yeah, so, have a way, you guys can play around with it, build your own version. I think it could be a useful tool if you wanted to look at fundamental research for yourself. If you, didn't want to sort of just rely on information that you're getting from these YouTube gurus. You can actually fact check them. I think that something like this is not super accessible to most people, but if you build your own database, you analyze and extract the insight for yourself, I think it could make that a lot more accessible. I'll also leave a link to Zoe. I honestly think this is, I'm not being paid to do this. I honestly think this is a really good tool. I can just show you guys. I've been using a lot of these different tools for building. I honestly think that Zoe is just super good for prototyping, and I just think that Zoe is a really good all-in-one solution, right, for hosting and building. Because I think that if I was trying to build this myself, I would have to, set up a database in Supabase or on AWS, and then I also have to, I also have to deploy the site on Vercel. It's just a lot of moving pieces for something that you're prototyping. And like I showed you guys here earlier with these sites, I think these vibe coder sites are not really good at handling complex stuff. This is actually quite complex on the back end if you want to build this out and for it to really, really work. But Zoe was just really good at doing that. These databases are all hosted on Zoe. And then my site, so this site that you see here, is actually also hosted on Zoe. Here, I can just show you guys here. My MonkeyPub site is just hosted on here. And yeah, and you can, preview it, and that's what gets deployed. You can publish it. So you can do all of your CI/CD through this one interface. And I think that was really, really good to be able to do that, play with it, see the data. Yeah, so I think that especially if you're building an app that has real data, really, really give Zoe a try. It's free, has a very generous free tier. And yeah, so I think the last thing that I want to show here is I really love the mission statement too. Okay, let me just read this. Our experience of the internet is like being on a tour bus. We peer at the internet through windows, right? Apps and websites built by other people. Sometimes they let us out to walk around, but our data and attention are ruthlessly monetized. To truly live on the internet, you must have a permanent home where you're allowed to construct anything you want and interact with other individuals and businesses without middlemen. So I think that is just really emblematic of what you're able to do with Zoe. I was able to take out the middlemen, which is, something like Bloomberg, and you can go straight to the source and have all of this data. So happy building. I hope you guys are able to build something really cool, and hopefully this was helpful.